There's an island off the coast that sailors whisper about, a place where the wind doesn't just blow, it speaks. They say the lighthouse there has seen every storm, every shipwreck, every secret, and some say it never forgets. Tonight, we uncover the diary of a man who vanished a century ago, but whose words are still writing themselves, guiding the events we're about to witness. Welcome to Gullpoint Island, where history waits, watching, and hungry. If you dare, stay with us, the story is just beginning. The wind had a way of speaking on Gullpoint Island. It cut through the bones of anyone foolish enough to linger after sunset, howling through jagged cliffs and the skeletal remains of abandoned fishing shacks. For generations, the lighthouse had stood sentinel at the edge of the island, its beams swinging over the Atlantic like a restless eye. Sailors whispered about it when they returned to port with haunted eyes. I first heard about the lighthouse during a routine call. My work as an investigative journalist often brought me to forgotten corners of the country, and Gullpoint's lighthouse had been quietly sitting on the National Register of Historic Places, its history of shipwrecks and disappearances mostly forgotten, except by those who still believed the island had a way of keeping secrets. The story began to take shape the day I stepped inside the old keeper's quarters. Dust layered every surface. The smell of damp wood and salt lingered, as if the building had inhaled the sea itself and never exhaled. That's when I found the diary. It wasn't hidden. It sat almost ceremoniously on a cracked table, bound in worn leather, its pages yellowed and brittle. The cover bore no name, only the faint imprint of a single word, Elias. Flipping through the pages, I realized this was more than a diary. It was a meticulous record of a life spent on the edge of the world. Elias Marlowe had arrived on Gullpoint Island in 1923, a pale young man with a nervous energy he masked with routines. He documented everything, the weather, passing ships, storms, the rare visitors. Then the entries changed. At first, small observations, the way the wind lingered in corners, a gull refusing to leave the same rock for days. Then it escalated. Lights flickering on the water at night, boats that vanished when he checked the logs, shadows moving inside the lighthouse even when no one was there. Reading those entries, I felt a chill. The dates didn't match any known storms or incidents. It was as if Elias was recording things that should not exist, things that waited just out of sight. And then the journal began to mirror events happening now. It started subtly. A fisherman's boat disappeared off the northern cliffs, described in an entry dated 1927, fog rolling in at 2:17 a.m., a strange light bobbing on the waves, a shadow taller than any man. Last week, the same sequence unfolded. Over the following days, the pattern became undeniable. A fire broke out in an old boathouse, identical to an entry from 1931. A woman went missing near the cliff's edge, echoing a century-old passage describing a scream carried by the wind. Each incident matched the diary with disturbing precision, down to details no one would notice otherwise. The locals were cautious when I asked about the diary. Their eyes darted toward the lighthouse as if it were alive. One old man finally spoke, his hands knotted like driftwood. That lighthouse, it sees everything. Some say Elias never really left. Some say the lighthouse itself writes the diary, and the diary, it's still writing. I laughed at first. Ghost stories, nothing more. But the timing. I couldn't ignore it. I combed archives and maritime records, hoping for a rational explanation. There was none. Boats that vanished in the diary had no record. Storms described in detail never appeared in historical logs. And yet here we were, living it. Then the entries seemed to address me directly. Not in words, exactly, but in rhythm and implication. One read, "Tonight the shadows will gather where the wind lingers. He who reads too closely will hear them call." The final entry chilled me to my core. No date, only one line, "Do not look behind the lantern. They will be there." I realized then it was the last page of the diary, Elias's final warning. I spent hours at the lighthouse, documenting every creak, every shift in the air. That night, as I examined the lantern at the top of the spiral staircase, the wind fell into unnatural silence. The air thickened, heavy and expectant. And then I saw it, a movement too dark and fluid to be a shadow, right behind the glass. I couldn't move. Something older than the island, older than the diary, held me there. The movement lingered a moment before receding, leaving only my heartbeat echoing in the empty space. I left the lighthouse before dawn, the diary clutched in my hands. I couldn't explain what I had seen. I couldn't rationalize the uncanny alignment of the past and present. But I knew this: the lighthouse keeps its secrets, and its journal never truly ends. Now, I write this, half in fear, half in fascination, knowing that each word might draw me closer to something I cannot undo. Some stories, once uncovered, have a way of reaching into the present. You realize, too late, that they were never meant to be found. The wind still whispers on Gullpoint Island. And sometimes, when the night is dark enough, I swear I hear a pen scratching on old paper, writing events that haven't yet come to pass. History doesn't just repeat itself. Sometimes, it waits, patient, watching, and hungry.